Given that we're now at Lesson 2, you've heard me list off all of the lessons and challenges and exercises you'll have gone through thus far many times before. But this time, our recap is going to explore the role that each part played within the course as a whole, so that you have a better understanding of where you are in the grand scheme of things. At this point, you've gone through Lesson 0, which goes over how this course works and should be approached, as well as what is expected of you, the student. You've also gone through Lesson 1, which introduces a lot of the basic tools we need to engage with the focus of the course. Think of it as though we're teaching in a language you don't yet know. So the first lesson is all about getting you up to speed on vocabulary and grammar. And of course, you've completed the 250 box challenge, and for that, congratulations are in order. Take a moment to pat yourself on the back. It was not an easy thing to accomplish, and you did it on your own merits. A lot of students get the impression that because of the course's name, Drawabox, the 250 box challenge is the course. That all we have to offer is telling you to follow some extremely specific instructions 250 times. That is not the case, and to be completely honest with you, we are still at the stage where we're gathering all of our tools and packing our bags. We haven't yet left base camp, and the mountain still looms overhead. Don't worry, it's not Everest we're climbing, so put away your oxygen tanks and stop writing "in case I die" letters to your loved ones. It's more like Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, which though on paper is a much more leisurely climb, torments its climbers not with sheer cliff walls and dangerous drops, but with promises it simply refuses to keep. My father, who had tackled the climb some 50 years ago as a teenager, wrote an article explaining why, where the success rate of those leaving Everest's base camp is something like 90%, only half of those climbing Kilimanjaro actually make it to the top. At its core, it's the illusory nature of the mountain's shape that makes climbers feel like the summit is always within reach. I'm sure you've experienced it to some degree, where you're climbing a hill and it feels like your destination is just over the next ridge, but the crest simply never arrives. Now imagine doing it for days, under searing heat, with a heavy pack on your back. But where my father departed for his harrowing journey as a pampered teenager, I have ensured that you would be prepared. You've been brought up to speed on the concepts we'll be leveraging throughout the remainder of the course, and with the box challenge, you've armed yourself with the discipline you need to see it through. So, what's left? A compass. From lessons 3 to 7, we're going to be doing a lot of constructional drawing exercises. These are essentially studies where we take a reference image, break down the major forms that are present, and then reconstruct them on the page, gradually building back up to our completed object. I'll be explaining this in more detail later in this lesson, but for now, all you need to know is that each of these exercises presents the student with a 3D spatial puzzle that forces you to think about how these different forms sit in space and how they relate to one another in 3 dimensions. It's all about getting your brain to think about how the things you draw in 2 dimensions exist in 3. Sure, each lesson tackles a different topic: plants, animals, vehicles, etc. But while the lens we're looking through changes, the problem we're looking at remains the same. There are 2 things that make these kinds of exercises effective. One is a consistent approach, where given the same problem, the same general kind of solution or strategy is employed. You will encounter dozens of individual problems that need to be solved as you approach constructing a given object. And depending on what kinds of forms it's composed of and how they're oriented, this can vary quite a bit from one object to another. But whenever you come across the same problem, even in different contexts, ideally we want to be solving it in the same way. The other is that we want to establish a context in which these exercises are understood. There are a lot of things you can take away from these kinds of exercises, and what this lesson focuses on is helping to guide students towards certain kinds of insights and growth. How do we do this? Well, you're not going to like it. Remember the rotated boxes exercise from lesson 1? and how it introduced concepts that you eventually got a better hang of by doing the box challenge? Remember how it was frustrating to be introduced to a concept with the expectation that you were going to fumble it, but that we wanted you to try just to plant a seed in your brain that would be cultivated later? Yeah, we're going to be doing that again. Strap on your swim floaties because we're dumping you back in the deep end of the pool. As many of you know, Drawabox is a completely free resource that delivers a ton of value on a very limited budget. While one of the major ways students support our efforts is by signing up to our Patreon and allowing some of their official critique credits to expire, checking out the courses, tools, and books listed on our recommendations page is also an excellent way to help us out. When a student uses one of our links to Amazon in Canada and the United States, or Proco.com, and makes a purchase, we get paid a commission that helps us out considerably. So, if you're interested in checking out other courses and books, our curated recommendations are a great place to start. The link will be in the description below.